It's time for the Access of Easy podcast, the weekly technology digest that keeps you ahead of the curve. Brought to you by EasyDNS.com.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Access of Easy, the latest and greatest in data breach and overreach. And this is the 393rd edition of the show. I'm talking in my radio voice. My name is Joey. That's Len. Beautiful Thursday night. I think, Len, this is around the time when it feels like my dopamine starts to peak out again. Like I just want to be outside doing stuff, even though it's not super warm. The sun is just so inviting.
Excellent, because I was just about to head outside to put some lawn signs for Mark Carney into people's. So I'll pick you up and we can do the same thing.
Oh, man. Have you had the feds coming around yet to ask who you're supporting? The pollsters, the party loyalists?
Before the writ drop, they came on the weekend. So last Saturday, the Liberal team, not the candidate, but the team came by. And yeah, more often than not, because I'm not home during the day, I don't get to meet them. My wife works from home 4 to 5 days, so she's going to be the one privy to talking to them, but she's going to do nothing. She's going to say hello, goodbye. That's all.
Yeah,
I dig deep. Like I want some more information, right? Like I want to hear more about the platform. I want to hear more about what's the outcome moving forward with Canada, with relations to the United States and the rest of the world. How are we going to deal with this whole thing with Tesla, right? Like they're getting rid of the subsidies for Tesla. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
But yet we're getting rid of internal combustion engine cars in 10 years.
Well, and there's no consistency, buddy. You know that. On this program, we frequently discuss the lack of consistency in policy. But yeah, it's
no, you just want people to drive. That's basically it.
People come to that conclusion. I'll just note that my father came by the house today for a bit to visit with my daughter, and we were talking after she went to sleep. This is unrelated to the show, but sort of related. He started to ask me questions about, he's starting to notice friends and colleagues and just people in his life having problems with deep vein thrombosis, blood clots. And he's like, what do you think? He's like, what do you think is causing that? He's like, some guys in the NBA have it now too. And I just looked at him. I'm like, what do you think I'm going to say? Like, what do you think I'm going to say that's causing this? And I think a lot of people are starting to notice these things, and are they're having trouble reconciling what they see with what they're told. And policies like this ICE thing and the subsidy freeze is going to cause more noticing. And the noticing is going to intensify and become difficult, I think, for policymakers to contend with. But we'll see. It's an interesting time to be alive, which is all we can ask for. Let's talk about last week's quote. I am so clever that sometimes I don't understand a single word of what I'm saying. That was by Oscar Wilde. Congratulations, Ross. Well done. You got that. This week's quote, why are we always getting what we believe, but not always what we want? Very interesting. If you know who it was by, without Googling, obviously, you can look in your bookshelf. You can try and find the guidance to understand who that was from in the Bible or something, but you cannot Google it. Put it in the comments. You get your next round of renewals on.
So if somebody has a book of quotes and they look into that, is that cheating?
I don't know. Maybe. Are they indexed properly? Like if they're sorted by name, you'd still have a hard time finding who it was by.
Could be by topic or alphabetical order based on the sentence. I don't know. There's lots of different ways it could be sorted. But I guess
people who work in fortune cookie manufacturing may also have a leg up, right?
They are very wise.
Yeah, they're leaders even when no one is around. Whatever else these Confucius say cookies are. So we got a bunch of stories today. A couple of late editions here from corporate.
A couple.
Yeah, or one anyway. Second one forthcoming, but we couldn't wait for it. So the former CRTC Vice-Chair is noting that the Canadian media have a direct financial stake in the election outcome. Mark obviously penning a short thing on this, and there's a link to the Peter Menzies piece in the Hub. And Peter Menzies, you may love him, you may hate him, but notes that this is really the first time that the media has had a real bit of their own skin in the game. One candidate threatening to defund, the other threatening, the other, doing the opposite, guaranteeing more funding and more protection. And so, in my opinion, probably, guaranteeing also less independence. I don't want to go too long on this one, Len, but where do you come down? Like, do you think this is this fair to say that if Polyev wins, the media is out, and so they're, I should say the state-sponsored media, CBC and their ilk are out. Do you think it's going to affect the way they're covering the election? Do you think it's affected the way they've covered it to date?
If your job was dependent on a particular outcome, would you be trying to make that outcome become a reality? Yes.
Yeah.
So if that's, just look at how much money is being proposed. It's going to be an increase, as you mentioned, by one team, and the other one's going to be cutting it. So why would they even try to support, or at least give it any sort of added coverage, positive coverage to one of the candidates that's going to be cutting their funding? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So I could understand their point of view. If I was sitting in their position, I'd be doing the exact same thing as they're doing. So I'm not saying that they're at fault or not at fault. I'm just saying that's just the reality of the situation, that anybody that's doing what they're doing would do the exact same thing. It's just, unfortunately, for other people that are funding it, they're not too pleased.
Yeah. Interesting that, Menzies notes in his piece, and I think he's right. Carney has been pretty disdainful with the media anytime they've mentioned Brookfield or his business interests or conflict of interest or any of these things, including like, turning his nose up at Rosie Barton pretty severely, asking her to look inward as though he's some kind of, spiritual Reiki chakra guide of some kind and not the PM. The media has a role to play, and to Rosie's credit, I think oftentimes she is a liberal partisan, but in that moment, either found religion or was taken over by a spirit of some kind, I don't know, asked a really good question about the blind trust. And he couldn't answer it. Not a surprise. He seems unwilling to answer those questions, though he will have to address them at some point. And I think you're right, Len. These guys, by and large, even if they don't like the man, which seems to be the case, honestly, they have no choice but to, prop him up. That's where their bread is buttered, is on the left, unfortunately. And whether you think they're biased or not, or partisan or not, the fact remains that one party, Polyev's conservatives, are threatening to take away their funding and so take away their livelihood. I can't imagine they're doing anything but supporting the other party, right?
No island visit talk, except for one quote. That was it.
Yeah.
That's the only. It's too bad we don't hear more about it, because it'd be interesting to hear. Talking about visiting Cuba or whatever, not talking about, I don't know what people are thinking, but yeah, it'd be interesting. Why would he go to Cuba? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's not even that warm there right now. It doesn't really get warm for a few more months. Yeah, weird. Anyway,
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Let's call it a day, Joey. I think that's about it.
Adios. Yeah, that's good for us. Take care. See you next week.
Let's move on, Joey. Let's talk about the U.S. Department of State, their Global Engagement Center, the GEC. They appear to have been doing some shady things over the years, and this was all revealed through a America First legal lawsuit against the GEC. And the GEC is teaming up with other agencies like USAID, the British Foreign Commonwealth, the Development Office, and media censorship is part and parcel of what they're all trying to do, because they're all working together to just do one particular thing: control a narrative, the common theme of misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation. And they're the ones that are defining it and trying to make sure that they are the judge, jury, and executioner to make sure that everything is done according to them. But the GEC was shuttered just a few months ago in December 2024. And I'm wondering why it was done, considering the timing is interesting. But more than anything, the GEC, they were designed to combat foreign disinformation abroad. Why is there a U.S. agency that is doing this, or is U.S. publicly funded anything that is doing this abroad? It doesn't make any sense. They were also not just did misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation, but they're also doing stuff related to a particular virus.
Yes.
Yeah, so some propaganda around it.
Surprise.
Just trying to suppress propaganda and misinformation around that particular virus.
I love the misinformation around that virus. It's really guided me to a point where I've become significantly more competent in terms of my ability to weigh truth against falsehood in the media over the last 5 years. But I digress. Please continue.
Yeah, well, remember how much money we talked about, at least not on this show, the USAID, billions and billions of dollars used to fund narrative wars. That's what it is. And this
great phrase, Len.
GEC is another
that's
one.
That's a great phrase by you. Outstanding way to put it.
Thank you. It's really just a narrative war. And Doge, for all the things people say it does wrong, I think in terms of pinpointing all the problems, in terms of spending where it shouldn't be spent, it's just the power of money and the misuse of it. And this just highlights it. It's too bad we had to have a lawsuit to figure out that the GEC was doing this kind of trash. But they are no more as of December 2024.
I don't know why people think that the cuts to quote unquote the United States public service and things like USAID and the GEC or whatever this thing is, like the way that it's framed constantly by the left. Chuck Schumer going on this like unhinged, dementia fueled diatribe on The View the other day. Talk about a meeting of the minds about how Democrats are united in stopping the Republican administration from gutting the services that Americans rely on. We can't put up with the cuts, blah, blah, blah. These are the cuts he's talking about. There's something to be said about misinformation and disinformation about like COVID-19 is still somehow in the minds of people. I was getting a license plate renewed today, and license plate renewed, ownership changed over today at a local Service Ontario, and a guy at the door tried to keep the door propped open because it was busy in there, and he mentioned when the clerk told him to shut the door, they're not heating the whole outdoors. He goes, well, hope nobody has COVID in here. Just trying to get some fresh air in the room. Like, people are really in this time warp. It's like, going on 5 years and change now. And it's not just that they want to influence public opinion on like the severity of the virus. That's one thing. But as you've mentioned before on our show, and I think we've definitely danced around it, if not mentioned it outright here on AOE, the money that comes with being able to drive narrative is almost unlimited. Everything from vaccine manufacturing to stickers on the floor to forcing closures and allowing big box stores to rake in 100% of the retail pie. Like, you name it. And it's possible, all things are possible basically through GEC and kin lettered agencies. And you see in this document, like, just insane like phrases and names for things like the Digital Development Asia Bureau taskers, Asia Outreach, conflict prevention and stabilization, working together on counter propaganda. Like, it was all a lie. It was all a lie. Continues to be a lie. The big question for me, honestly, is who is still listening to this? Where are the people who are influenced by these avenues? Certainly the Twitter heads are not. The Twitter heads are, doing anime cartoons all day and making fun of people, telling, thinly veiled jokes about politicians. It's not the kids. The kids don't pay attention to news at all. They're gambling what little savings they have on meme coins all day long. It's just the boomers, right? So they're really in an echo chamber of their own making here, and they've done it to themselves. It's I don't want to get doom and gloom here, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens when the boomers die out and or become old enough that they're no longer politically active, because a lot of these things they have no hope of ever penetrating the millennial or Gen X or Gen Z ranks of the informed people. So I don't know what they're going to do. There's just no way for it to continue working on these people. We're insulated. Our shells are so hard that this stuff just won't work. So where are they going to go? Like, what is the plan to keep the narrative spin going? And when you don't have this other counter this other countering force, right? This countervailing wind in the boomers, voting against you, telling you that you can't do certain things in your city, being NIMBY when it comes to development. Like when you lose that, what happens? I don't know, but I don't think anyone really talks about that enough. The likelihood of like significant social change and change in the social fabric when the boomers die out, not just because suddenly everyone will be happier to vote against like long-term pensions, but also because there's a whole narrative machine that's just not going to work anymore. It's going to be interesting to see.
Maybe they could put their thoughts, their conscience onto a AI, and then that could continue for them after they pass on, and that AI could vote, even though they've gone through. And so it may not be ever possible to truly get over.
They don't have to put AI in someone for the dead to vote. I mean, the Democrats in the States have mastered the voting dead population for some time now, right? So maybe they can just pass that technology along to the next generation.
So if the AI identifies as a human being,
yeah,
do we have to respect its right to vote?
The Overton window is always shifting, Len. That's all I'll say. I don't know, but I'm not willing to bet
I'm gonna go
against
in
it.
threads and see if anybody's talked about this before. I'm sure this has been.
Threads.
If anywhere, it would be there.
Yeah, Blue Sky, Blue Cry.
Blue Sky, yeah, another one. All right, let's go on to Italy, because over there, soccer, it's very, very important. And so much so, people are using streaming services to watch their favorite matches. But this comes at a price, because they're not just using legitimate streaming services. They're using stuff that's not really sanctioned. I'm talking about pirated streams. So as a result, the Italian government is going after the DNS servers, Google's DNS servers. And I think the ones, I'm not sure if you're aware, but Google runs 2 of them. And the numbers, the IP addresses are 4.4.4.4. And the other one is 8.8.8.8. I love the fact that they secured those 2 IP addresses.
Why?
For their DNS server. It's easy to remember.
Okay.
Just a bunch of 4s and a bunch of 8s. Whenever you set up your whatever internet device you have, and you don't have automatic DNS, you can just point to that. So I've done that with my PlayStation. So I don't want to explain why. I'll do it offline. Either way, with respect to soccer, watching pirated games, and how is the Italian government going after Google DNS or Google and asking them to change your DNS? Because they want to poison their DNS servers in a way that the domain name server doesn't correctly resolve the IP that it should belong to. So they want, if you're trying to go to a particular website with a name, it will then go to an address, an IP address that doesn't belong to it, and such. The link is broken. The complaint that the Italian government has is that if they do find something and they do report it to Google, Google has to do something within 30 minutes or less. So by the time this complaint is launched, 30 minutes or less.
What are they delivering pizzas? 30
it's
minutes.
Better than that, because if you order a pizza, it takes longer than 30 minutes.
Yeah, but usually it's free after 30 minutes. That's what that used to be the deal. Remember when we were younger?
Right. But they want Google to react swiftly enough that any complaint, immediately they have to resolve something on your DNS side. This is just a cat and mouse game. If they do this, if they're quick enough to resolve this and people get shut out, they'll just go to a VPN service, and that's going to totally get around all this. So it's, I can understand why they're trying to do this, but it's a whack-a-mole. Like it's never possible to be at the leading edge and to stop everybody. It doesn't take very much. There's so many VPN servers out there, legitimate or illegitimate, but still they'll be able to provide the same type of service to get around this type of thing. So I don't think there's any way to stop people from watching their favorite soccer matches in Italy, regardless if the government's trying to stop them or not. So this is just a interesting story, but nothing really much to it, if you ask me.
Do you know that? Okay, so I'll dox a little bit here. I use a gray market streaming service. Most of the time, I get one for for example, it's March Madness right now, so I paid $15 in Bitcoin. Actually, this place only takes Bitcoin for payment, and use the streaming service to watch the games. I'll be watching March Madness after we're done recording here, in fact. And I shared that info with a couple of our American Bitcoin friends. It was something they'd never heard of before. It's like nobody in the United States is doing this. And the reason they're not doing it, Len, is because their cable is just so cheap that there's no point in trying to waste time with Bitcoin payments, server resets. You got to call some guy you don't really know. He's got to come to your house and give you a new SD card or whatever. Or you got to re-up your IPTV subscription or re-up your IPTV server login info. And you're kind of at the mercy of the gray market, the gray market enthusiasts on the other end of your service. But in Canada and in European countries, and I'm sure in other places, we are at the mercy of shitty government policy. Sorry for swearing, Mark. Don't censor that out. Crappy government policy about the price of television, the price of phones, the price of media, all these things. And this stretches even to stuff like YouTube. Like, I don't know if you know this, but YouTube TV, only available in the States. It's a great price and a great product, but you can't get it anywhere else really for that price and that quality, right? Everything is blacked out, market protected, all this stuff. And so when I hear stories like this about the government trying to shut down services, it's just another example of in my opinion, like anti-competitive behavior from governments. The solution is to open up the market so that people can get the cheapest product when it comes to everything from soccer to cooking shows to commercial free streaming. And they can't do it because governments refuse to let it happen. Here in Canada, great example. I realize this is an Italy story, but I'm imagining the markets are quite similar. There's no entry. There's no port of entry for an American telco to come here or an American TMT company to come here and say, yeah, we want to offer everything you're getting now plus the American channels for a third of the price because we have the infrastructure, we have the scale, we have all these things. It'll never happen. And so you wind up paying the price. This drives people to these services. And instead of taking the hint, now the government is, like you said, engaged in this never-ending, no-win game of cat and mouse that will make people hate them. And it seems to be the end goal for a lot of policy these days, honestly. People just fed up with the government interfering with every damn thing they do. This is another example. Soccer, of all things. Truly a bread and circus moment. Truly, there are way bigger problems to tackle for most of these governments, Italy specifically. And this is what they're spending their time on. Just an unbelievable waste of resources. Just completely ridiculous.
In terms of state-sponsored television channels, they must... I could think of 6 off the top of my head. There's
Raya, right?
There's Raya, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Raya Sports. There's a bunch.
Me and Len know the Italian channels. You don't get this kind of content on any other cybersecurity podcast, okay? No other cybersecurity podcast will tell you what the Italian channels are. Well, we know what they are.
I was watching an Italian movie just about an hour ago. So. I do get the Italian channels here, including all the rye flavors. So yeah. Anyways, we'll just keep moving on to the UK. We're still in Europe.
Keir Stalin at it again.
The Online Safety Act. Well, this thing is now a reality because it came into effect in the middle of this month, it being March 2025. And the law is causing some issues with some online forums out there. What I'm talking about forums where people go on and chat, like hobbyists, like cycling and stuff like that. And the reason why it's causing an issue is because the law itself is trying to ensure that the tech companies that are administering these forums, they have to take responsibility for the safety of their users. And what does this entail? Well, they have the duty to proactively police harmful illegal content. And there's some illegal content we could all agree upon, but there's others maybe we not agree upon. But it's just the policing of this and the administration of this and getting rid of the stuff that is deemed to be wrong is causing a lot of headaches with the people that are managing these forums, and it's causing some of them to shut down. So there now is the counter effect. This act is now in place, but all these forums that now operate within the jurisdiction of the UK is now suffering as a result. All this is really going to do is just push people to operate outside of the boundaries of the UK, and so it's just not going to be subjected to the act itself. The individuals themselves maybe, but then again, they could find ways around it by using VPN or Tor or something along those lines to cover their tracks. It's just creating more of a hassle for the end user. It's too bad. I can understand some of the things, like I said, we could agree on which are bad, but it's just putting the onus on the people that are running this. It's creating a lot of problems. And what are we going to end up with in the end is just a bunch of government-run forums. I don't think this is what we need, but whatever. It is what it is.
The author makes a good point that if this continues, what is stopping the UK from becoming an internet jurisdiction, much like China, that operates, like you said, only government sanctioned sites behind its own little firewall. You can't get out, you can't get in. It's like a different world, right? What's stopping them? These guys are targeting, like in the article, you might think it's like hacking pages or like 4chan adjacent stuff. The one service they target is, what is it? London fixed gear single speed, a bicycle forum. Bicycles.
Yeah, it's like a lot of hobbyists that are being
like it's insane, and people can say whatever they want about it's in good faith, it's easy to comply, you just have to do it. Like a guy running a cycling forum, okay, is not gonna have the time to comply with your cumbersome regulation, and you know that, and pretending you don't, or pretending it's for the safety of everyone. I'm sorry, did you not just suppress the gang rape stories for like 30 years? Did you not just spend a bunch of time like banning ninja swords instead of banning the people using the ninja swords? Like, are we a serious country in the UK, or are we not? The answer is obvious here. It seems like we get a story about the UK and just some censorship or nonsense or completely insane policy move basically every 2 weeks on this show ish, and sometimes even more often on CBP in the notable news area. That section of the show. But this one is like, because you know about the law, and then you find out the application. Oh well, we were able to shut down this nefarious software pirating site through this. Okay, I may disagree with that, but I can see your point. But the cycling forum, Len, bicycle enthusiasts, come on, it's a bridge too far. It's ridiculous.
Because they're talking about two wheels. Think of the 3-wheel bikes, the 4-wheel bikes that they're shutting out.
All bikes are made equal, right?
Yeah. Like, this is not right.
Yeah.
And remember, they are kind of our overlords. We can't have a law put in place without having royal assent. And with us in Canada, we need the Governor General, which is a representative of the monarch.
Plus, we need more trans vehicles there, right? That's vehicles with transmissions. So maybe just not bicycles, but also cars as well.
Yes. Agreed.
Yeah. Possible. Yeah. More inclusivity is the answer. Yeah. Let's go to China. Yeah. Why not? We're already basically right there. So let's just hop over.
Well, kind of on the same topic, because they have AI in China that it is censoring people. No way, right? Like, this can't be the case.
Shocker.
Knock me over with a feather. Apparently, there's some leaked data to support this whole claim. Like, if you do any searches or anything like that, like using, like, example, like the Tiananmen Square massacre or maybe Tibet, that stuff is going to be way off limits, and the AI is going to basically shut you out. So there's multiple Chinese entities were caught using LLMs to track anti-government posts and smear Chinese dissidents. And any political satire, of course, is deemed to be explicitly targeted, and you're going to be sent to the gulag 3 generations worth over there. It seems to be like a way to control the people over there, to make sure that whatever information comes down goes to the end user. It's funny because over here we have TikTok, which is like a Trojan horse, and we have it here. It's run by the Chinese government. Chinese government, and over there, cut. Freudian slip. And over there, the version of TikTok is much better in terms of the end user is not subjected to the same type of crap we are over here. But then they have this AI censoring stuff. It does kind of the same thing. It's all controlling the narrative. That's all it is. It's brainwashing people, making sure that they see whatever that the government or the controlling people are able to send to you. Like, it's all crap. Like, it's too bad there's no freedom over there with respect to this, but good thing I don't live there.
Yeah, I have nothing to add to this. That country is a lost cause in terms of public opinion and open information sharing. Maybe I'll just note that when I was a little younger, taking classes in university, I really thought that the Western influence was this just Leviathan that couldn't be stopped between LeBron James and Nike sneakers and Starbucks coffee. But boy, was I wrong. That it seems to be going the other way, if anything.
2 out of 3 are directly linked to
China.
Yeah. It's funny. So maybe there's a connection with everything. Anyways, Canada.
We'll find out sometime, I'm sure.
For those who aren't aware, Canada, we are undergoing a federal election right now. This started on Sunday this past week, and it's going to wrap up on April 28th. It's the shortest campaign you could have as per the law. And with these days, social media is very powerful. And Elections Canada is going to be ensuring, bless you, Joey.
Thank you.
Elections Canada is going to ensure that social media is doing things according to plans. So TikTok is going to be out there, for example, are going to be asked and forced to remove anything that is deemed to be, quote, harmful misinformation.
Insane.
Unquote.
This is insane. Oh my God. Continue.
So yeah, Canada is going to try to ensure that there is no integrity lost through this election. The whole process is done properly, and there's no compromises with foreign interference, for example. And potentially this is something that may have happened with previous elections, this foreign interference stuff. This is according to what I read through CSIS and whatever. But either way, with the advent of AI, it's easy to see you could dupe somebody into believing just about anything. You could do altered pictures, you could do fake videos, stuff like that. So I can kind of understand that, but still, some people are just doing that for just laughs more than anything else. But more of this stuff we're going to see in future elections, right? This is something I don't think it's going to stop. I think it's going to be more and more prevalent as we move forward. So if you like this, be ready for this, because you're going to be fed this by the shovelful. If you don't like this, well, too bad, so sad.
You can't get off this island, honestly. Like, it's like a roach motel, right? You check into social media and everything is disinformation according to the powers that be. The best part is that if we look back at 2016, which was really the origin, I would say, of retail misinformation and the understanding for the average person, how much of the misinformation turned out to be, quote unquote, actually Russian-based or Chinese-based? Like, basically nothing. 2016, I think Facebook sold ads to Russia to the tune of like $100,000, $200,000, something like that. Basically a drop in the bucket. I mean, those election campaigns are hundreds of billions of dollars of influence and spending. And so they spend that little bit. That story's dragged on for 10 years. It's nonsense. Here you see the best part is that the government here has been very critical of TikTok and threatened to have them removed from app stores and things like this. And we talked about those bills and those efforts over the last year or so on this show and on our show. And so what do you think TikTok is going to do when it comes time to decide whether or not to pull something down that's critical of the government who is dangling this carrot? I think they're going to act in an honest way or in a way that is going to more greatly ensure their survival. If you had to guess, which one would you guess?
Oh, it's obviously they're going to be for the survival. They'll be bowing down to pressure, and yeah. So whoever's telling them to do whatever,
and like this is, by the way, all the buzzwords are here. Harmful misinformation, single biggest risk to democracy, existential threat, information manipulation. What is that? We need to secure the election and its integrity. Media literacy and authoritative information. The company is, quote unquote, working with Elections Canada. There's no room for this. In the modern digital age, you are either literate or illiterate, but pretending that you can censor information to force people to only get, quote unquote, quality info is completely insane, and it's not doable. Period. End of story. It's not feasible.
That's it, Joey. I have nothing else to talk about. This has been interesting. You know what? We're in election time. I mean, we just talk about it quickly, and the polls are saying one thing, but I think our eyes are showing something else.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of inclined to believe my eyes rather than what I see in the polls. I could be dead wrong.
Well, Mark and I have talked about this a bunch over the last few weeks, right?
Yeah. I can't believe that the polls are saying what they are, given. Maybe I'm in the echo chamber. That's the words you used earlier in the show. Maybe I live in that echo chamber, so I'm not seeing the total picture. But I'm seeing video footage of the two leading candidates, and it just seems like there's a lot more hoopla, a lot more activity with one than the other, more energy with one than the other.
Yeah.
And the third guy's riding a bus. He's not even on.
Let me ask you something. Do you think, given the recent American election and the style of communication that both candidates opted for, do you think Poilievre will do Rogan
during the election or after?
In the next 3 weeks? Will he do it? For sure, he could go. I mean, Joe Rogan would have him 100%. He's not going to go. You don't think? You think it's courting the quote unquote far right over there? Is that your, or it's like an American media company and we're distancing ourselves from America here in terms of culture and economics and also success and currency value. But it's
why did he decline Patrick Bet-David's invitation?
PBD is not. I don't think that podcast is where you want to be. I think PBD's got a host of his own issues to deal with. Like I personally would also not go on there, especially if PBD reached out to every candidate and the only guy he could get was Bernier. Like you don't want to be the second guy after Bernier. You know what I mean? So I think if you can do Rogan, you do it, but you don't follow up Maxime Bernier on PBD.
But was he asked to go before Bernier? Did he turn that down?
I don't know.
So there's the fact that he didn't go. I think that tells something, and I don't think he's going to do any of those shows. He won't even come on the biggest show in Canada, the Canadian Bitcoiners podcast.
He honestly should do our show, or he should do Looney Hour, where there will be a fair line of questioning from people who are more than just ground level in terms of knowledge. But we'll see. I don't know if he'll do either one, honestly. I'll find out, I guess, in the next few weeks. But
for sure, he wouldn't do our show because it has named Bitcoin in it. And that would look really bad, according to him and his team, because he's not talking about Bitcoin. It hasn't been talking about it for 3 years. Mm-hmm. So he wouldn't touch our show. Maybe Looney Hours where he's got to end up, or some other big show. I don't know which other one it would be.
Not sure.
But whatever.
Yeah, we'll find out.
1 more month and 1 month and 1 day.
Yeah. We'll be watching. Thanks for listening, watching, everyone. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, the newsletter, the YouTube channel, all that good stuff, and read more of the stories that we didn't cover every week on the Access of Easy website. Until next time, take care of yourselves.